Okay, congratulations. You now have a fully functioning Alexa program for your particular game, whatever game you like. Now you can do interactivity with Alexa and make your rulebook much better than it was. So at some point you're going to want to start digging around in here and maybe add features and again make this your own. Make this your own style, tweak it, and do things like that. So I figured you'd want a crash course on how the back end works and how everything links up and everything else. So let's do that. The back end is going to be a lot of code. So I put this into WebStorm so you don't have to look at the horrible Lambda management console, which looks like this. So this is much better. So let's go over some of your features real quick. Let's see, calling air supports, attack roles, and all that stuff. Let's try this out. Great War Commander.
Welcome to Great War Commander. Say cancel to exit this application.
So as you can see here, we played a sound right before we came into it. So let me show you what that is in just a minute. I'll finish the demo. But you can do all sorts of interesting sounds like calling in air support.
Air support is on the way.
So if you have a word game, I guess you can put in some cute sounds. There's all sorts of sounds. I'll link in the description for both the Amazon sounds and the Google Home sounds. You can use either, but you just need to put in the code in order to do that. We'll show you in just a second. So again, you have all your rules that you plugged in. For example, how does melee work?
At the conclusion of any order where a hex contains both opponent's melee ensues, boxed firepower numbers and action bonuses help. Section 016.1.
How many victory points for a defeated unit?
Platoon is 2 victory points, teams and runners are 1, and a leader is 1 plus his command.
So that's your standard stuff that you have that you typed in, and then I converted it to code. So in addition to that, we also have dice rolls. Roll 3 dice.
You rolled 3 dice. 3, 5, 6. Totaling 14.
So you'll notice there's a little delay between the 3, 5, and 6. If you go to your Alexa right now and say roll 9 dice or whatever, it'll go 3, 5, 6, 9, 10. It's real fast. So what I did was I put in a 300 millisecond delay in between those, and that's another feature that you can add to your speech. You can also emphasize words. So if you want totaling 14, then you can do that as well. So all sorts of cool stuff. That is called SSML, and that is on the background as well, and we'll dive into that in just a second. So the next thing that I added as a feature for you to sort of play around with and make your own are session attributes. So what that is when you finish a request, for example, I ask Alexa a question, when I drop out of that code, all the variables I declared in that function go away, so they're local variables. But what session variables allow you to do is to store a couple of those for later. So let's say you want to roll dice, and then you want to roll dice again, and you want to add the two together. Well, you can't do that unless you do session variables, and we'll show you how that works as well. So as well as I'll show you parameters that you can put into code, which I just did, roll 3 dice, that's a parameter. I didn't say roll some dice, and it chose 3. I told it roll 3 dice. So we can also do combat. So if you need to keep track of your meeple's health, or you need to do combat between opponents or something like that. Let's see if I remember this. Attacking with 3 firepower versus 9 defense.
Defender will be tough to beat. Please pull the cards and tell me what you drew.
Attacker rolled a 5. Defender rolled a 7.
Defender is unharmed. 8 attack does not beat 16 defense.
So you'll see it remembered those two variables between it. So theoretically, you could just start writing a bot at this point, right? You just put all your session variables, all the people's health, items they have. You know, if you want to write a sword and sorcery bot, then sure, go ahead. And then you can keep track of what monsters they're fighting and all this other stuff. So there's the demo. Let's go take a quick tour of what you have. So here is your interaction model. Invocation, this is what words are needed to launch the application. In other words, you need something unique. You can't just say, Alexa, hello, and because there's 1,000 other things that'll activate when you do that. So you need something unique. So that's going to be the name of your game, right, at the top of the file. So then you have calling air support, which has a couple of key phrases that it looks for, and then it'll play the sound. And then the melee rule, the victory point rule. Start attack has 2 parameters, firepower and morale. Attack defend rolls have 2 parameters. Roll a number of dice has 1 parameter called dice. So that's just a Amazon number, as you can see. So those are just variables that you can use. So now that we've looked at all that, let's take a look at the JSON real quick. And this is what you dragged and dropped, where you said drag and drop a JSON, and it made all this for you. So you don't have to worry about any of this. It's instant, and it's automatic. So let's look at how this stuff maps. Here's the code. Everybody loves code. There's lots and lots of code. Let's go to the bottom first. These are handlers, and the handlers will map to these invocations on the left side. So calling air support, for example, that handler is called calling air support handler. So these are handled top to bottom. So the top one is checked by Alexa, and she says, hey, do I want to drop into this code or not? And it'll tell you right here if you want to drop into the code or not. This is called can handle. So launch request is what happens when you first launch the application. So we go up here to launch request handler. So the top section determines if you can drop into this code or not. And the only way I want to drop into this code is if it's a launch request. You just started the app. And right here is your main meat and potatoes here. So a response builder is what you're going to spit back to the user. You're going to say, hey, here's some text or whatever. The next part is speak, which is going to be your welcome to Great War Commander. And then this is critical. This means, should I end the application and dump you back to Alexa primary? Or should I keep you in the application for a little bit? Because you may have another question. And endlessly loop question after question until you say, get out of the loop. And that's what I'm doing here. With should end session false means stay there. And then get response means I'm just going to wait for another question. So you're just endlessly looping the user question after question until he says quit, exit, or cancel. So the next thing in the list is all of our custom stuff. Dice rolling, combat, attacking, melee, victory points, air support. So those come next. And then after that is help. So if the user says, hey, I need some help with, I don't know the commands. So then you would go over here to the help section. Let's copy it, fresh copy here. So then you would go up here to the help section. And the help section says, say any question from the game. For example, what's on these cards? Or how many victory points, and then this is important, say cancel to exit the application, because you want the user to know how to exit the application. Otherwise, they're going to be stuck in there forever, and they're going to unplug their Alexa and replug it back in. So at the end of that is your session end, cancel and stop, etc., etc. So at the very, very end is error handler. And error handler says, you know, if I don't recognize what you're doing, I'll take this code and I'll run it. That's what return true means here. It means I can handle anything. What you don't want to do is put the error handler up top, because then everything you say will drop into the error handler, because can't handle is true. So that goes at the very bottom, the absolute bottom. Normally, you would say things like, I didn't understand you. Could you repeat that? But I left it blank. And I left it blank because I don't want you sitting there playing a board game and you have questions and you're talking with your friends, and every time you say something to your friends, Alexa goes, I didn't understand you. Could you repeat that? Because after a while, you're going to get the Alexa and you're going to throw it out the window. So I just left it blank. I'm like, all right, just leave it blank. Another option, obviously, is to completely exit out of the application, and when they have another question, they can restart it. But then you're going to have to say, Alexa, Great War Commander. And it'll go, oh, Great War Commander. Every time for a question would be annoying. So it's up to you. If you want this to say, I didn't understand that, then please put it right here. I didn't understand that, or whatever. Anyway, so again, that's just a personal decision that I made. I figured that they wanted to not be annoyed all the time with all your stuff. So again, with end session equals false, you could end true if you wanted to bail out. Okay, so that's the basic flow of the bot. So let's look at some of the other cool features. Playing sounds. So the response string is basically just text, like hello or equal odds. This will be a close match. So standard text. But if you want to put some custom cool stuff in there, you have to start it with speak. So you have speak and open speak. And then at the end, you'll have a close speak, where you'll just, put the end of the speak in there. So what you want to do for this is you want to say speak, and then you can start stuff like putting audio in here. And audio will let you play the different sounds. Again, link in the description for playing the different audio. So let's go through here and find the other audio that I have. All right, here it is. So this is speak, and then air support is on the way. And then you put your audio source right here, and then you put your close speak right after that. So it looks like XML. It's basic XML, right? Open tag, close tag, and then again, speak that with should end session false. That's a tongue twister. And then get response. So that's basically how you do the sounds. So it's pretty simple. So let's go up to the delay that I had and show you how that works. So let me find it. Is it millisecond? Here it is. Okay, so if you want it to talk slow, if you want Alexa to talk a little slower than normal, what you do is you put break time equals, and then you put a small number in there. I put 300 milliseconds. Because if you listen to Alexa read out dice, she reads it really fast. And especially if you're rolling like 4 dice, there's no way you're going to remember that. It's going to be like 8, 9, 6, 2, 5, yeah. So I put a break in between each number, and the break time is 300 milliseconds. It seems right. It's about the pace that a normal person would read off dice to you. You know what I'm saying? So if you call the postal service and you're like, I need my tracking number, and they read it to you, they're not going to read it like, it's 869-4234. They're going to speak it at a normal, slower pace. So that's what this emulates. And again, we have our closing speak, and then that is the end of that. So you rolled this dice, so it's just a random math floor. And again, you can come and tweak this. You could say, roll 9 3-sided dice, or whatever. Okay, so let's do combat roles and attributes. So again, when I roll a dice, for example, at the end of this function, all of these variables that I declared go away. So you'll see dice result equals 0, that goes away. Response string goes away. Dice result goes away. Everything vanishes at the end of this because they're local variables. So what you can do is you use a thing called the attributes manager. The session attributes. which uses the attributes manager. So these two lines here, what they do is they'll grab any global variables, basically, that are in the application. And you can specify any variables that you want. You could jam an object in there. You could jam particular variables in there. It doesn't matter. So let's go up here to where we're setting these variables. And that is in the start attack. So here's your start attack handler. And again, let's look at the can handle. I harp on the can handle, but it's absolutely critical, because if you mess this up or if you touch this and break it, you'll be confused for like an hour. So you'll see the can handle. Am I an intent request? You'll see on the left here, intents. Are you an intent request? Yes. Is your name start attack? So you'll see over here on the left, start attack. And you'll see start attack has these 4 phrases that you can say. So you could say attacking with 9 against 4 defense. You could say I'm attacking with 9 firepower, defender has 4 morale. You can say all these different things. So that'll drop you into the can handle. Now we have the async word, which is critical because in some instances you need to do a wait on this. Not in this particular instance, but theoretically you could just remove it. For this, it depends. If it doesn't work and it errors out, you may need asynchronous up here and mess with it. So here's my attributes manager equals attributes manager. Now, what I do is I grab the 2 variables. You'll see the 2 parameters, firepower and morale. I'm going to grab those from the request that I just got, because you'll see when it says handle, it has a parameter of handler input, and handler input is what stores all this garbage. So you could do a console log handler input, and it would tell you all the stuff that's in there. When you're doing test as well, if you look over here, Great War Commander. If you look over here on the left.
Welcome to Great War Commander. Say cancel to exit this application.
You'll see this stuff over here. This is good stuff. This tells you I have global attributes. Do you see this? So these are my global attributes or session attributes. They're currently storing attacker total and defender total. So this is an important window, because if you're trying to debug this, then this is handy. You have it all right here. And here's your session ID. So if you're going to store this in the database and use the database as your session manager, then you could use a session ID to uniquely identify this particular session. It also has user ID. It doesn't have your actual account name. It just has a long string that represents you. But if you want to remember this user for later, you could store this in a database. And I'll add a database function in here so that you'll know that. And if enough of you want to see how to store stuff in the database, I'll make a tutorial. So this is your device ID, which is going to be your Alexa device. And again, user and the application. So this is a unique ID for your application. All sorts of cool stuff right here that you need. All right, so right here I'm going to do a get session attributes. And that is going to return this right here. So this call gives you this over here. So now I know that I have 2 variables, attacker total, defender total, and I can go grab those. So now I'm going to say session attributes dot attacker total. Again, right there, you just copy and paste it, equals a value. Defender total equals a value. So now your attributes, you change them, but now you have to save it into, I think it stores it locally for speed. You have to save it into the session. How are you going to do that? So now I changed my attributes. I changed these from 9 to 3, from 3 to 9 to 5 and 8, whatever. Now I say attributes manager set session attributes. And then I pass it what I just got. So I'm grabbing this, I'm changing these two, and then I'm jamming it back in here. So that's what this is for right here. And I'll add comments to make it easier. So again, now we just have basic code. Make your response string different for different levels of the attack versus defense, etc. And we have the good old-fashioned response builder. Speak, all this stuff up here. Don't end the session, and then wait for the user to say something. And if you look at this on your actual echo, the echo will be lit up the whole time because it's waiting for you to say something. So we can say something totally random, and it doesn't respond. Why doesn't it respond? Because again, this right here, speak utterance, doesn't say I didn't understand that, it just has a blank. So that's why it's coming back with absolutely nothing, which is what I want. Because if you'll notice in the introduction, I say cancel to exit this application. So you have your instructions. You also say help. I'm not sure what activates help.
Say any question from the game. For example, what's on these cards? Or how many victory points for a defeated unit? Say cancel to exit this application.
So the user hears it twice, right? They hear it here, and if they want to say help, they hear it here. So they get the general idea. Cancel. Cancel.
Goodbye.
So then it dumps you back to Alexa. Now I can say, Alexa, what time is it? It is 4:15. Well, thank you. All right, so that is how long has it been? So there you go. That's your basic tour of all the goodies that you have. So let's talk about this. This is what I converted from your typed file. So you typed in, here's my real name, here's what to listen for, and then here's what I tell the user during that, when they hear it. So if you have 100 of these, you're going to have this section that's going to be quite big, full of text handling of your stuff. And you'll notice it looks exactly like what you typed, except I just wrapped it. So what did I do? I used this as a template. So in here, I had a variable called intent name or something like that. And then here, I had a variable called spoken text or something like that. So then what I would do, and then intent name I would have here. So I have this in a variable, and so what I would do is I'd read your input and I would convert it to this, basically, and that's it. That's all that the script did, right? It just converted your plain text to code, and so it just did that. So if you have 4 rules, then you're only going to have 4 entries in here. If you have 150 rules, you're going to have 150 entries in here. So again, if you want to come back and tweak this, maybe change some wording, maybe you got a rule wrong or you misquoted a rule, then you're going to just come back here and search for the rule and then change it. Or you could edit your original document, rerun the script. Either way is fine with me. So I believe that's pretty much it. Let's talk real quick about the developer console and the Json. So when you came in through here, here is your stuff. So these are what you typed as well, but I templated this too. So again, instead of melee, it was like request. Instead of samples, what you typed, I just put it into here. So it's actually extremely simple. All I did was convert your input to something Alexa would understand. And then I wrapped it. So hopefully that helps. you understand what all these sections are for. If you have any questions, let me know. You can add all sorts of cool stuff if you'd like. You can add RSS feed readers, in case they want to know what's new in your website. For new games, you could announce new games. How would you do that? Well, you would do an RSS reader handler or function, and you would just call that at launch request, right? So you could say, welcome to Great War Commander. We have 2 new games next month. See the website for details. They are called this, they are called that. Or you could make a new. So one last thing to say real quick. This is version 2 of their API, or Ask SDK is what it's called. So this is version 2. If you go to some other sites that train you on Alexa stuff, a lot of them say version 1, there's no need to go to version 2. And I disagree with that, because if you've done software development long enough, you'll know that companies will just deprecate a language in an instant for no reason whatsoever, and then everyone is panicked and trying to convert a big block of code or a lot of code very quickly, when if you would have just taken the time to go to the newest version initially, you would not have any emergencies to deal with this stuff. So it's better to stay on top of the API. Now, if they change the API, I'll come out with a new script. I'll come out with a new template. That's fine. So, again, let me know if you have any questions whatsoever on this. I'll be happy to answer anything. Just let me know. Again, I'm Mitch. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. This was part 4 of a deep dive. Well, not a deep dive, shadow dive into the code. Again, you can see that it's fairly simple. Thank you for watching.